Well, hello again. Let's see if I can fix this. There we go. Alright, so we're coming back. Figure I would do well on my promise of another snow showcase. I did cover him twice already. I did bring him to the Sink Loss chapter, but that video cut off at the end. So feels incomplete to me. And the last one, the audio kind of gets drowned out, so I would like to do another attempt with him, whether I win or lose. So here we are, we're on Dimensions End 8. This is, for those who don't know, this is the one with the elemental behemoths, where you basically need an impaler. And that's where Onion Knight comes in. So we're bringing Hope. Hope is going to be our support. He heals off of his EX, which should be all we need. And all the frame buffs that he's going to put on top of Snow's framed buffs, are going to pretty much protect Snow from any debuffs that he's going to be hit with that are non-framed anyway. Here are my artifacts for him. And I believe I have his Bloomstone. Yeah, protect up all growth. Next, naturally, we got Snow. Snow's got his own sphere, plus the sea sphere from Paladin Sissel. Because why not? And then we got Onion Knight here. Onion Knight's got some pretty solid artifacts. And Onion Knight's job here is to get the Imperil off and do damage. This team should be relatively safe. I've never fully completed this stage before. I did get a clear, but right at the last minute, as you can see, I took an AoE HP attack that just kind of took too much out of me, and I didn't manage to heal it up in time. The only difference here was I brought Hope, Onion Knight, and X-Death. And that was a fun team, but this should be safer. And that lets me save X-Death for a future stage like 10, which I hear he's really good for. So let's jump in. I'm also using Diablo's Summon for the Imp Brave and the Elemental Weakness damage boost when I inevitably take enough damage to proc it. So we're gonna start off with the Steel Guard. That's gonna trigger his Snow's 2 frame buffs, Steel Guard and Offensive Screen. That's going to start protecting him from damage residually until he starts taking zeros. And as long as I keep the buff up, he's just going to take zeros. He also starts with, because I have him at 3-3, he doesn't get it at 3-3, but because I have him at 3-3, he has it. He starts with Hot-Blooded Hero, which is going to raise his own Imp Brave, Max Brave, and reduce HP damage taken by the whole party, which paired with the C65 that Hope has, is just significant HP damage reduction. And then with Hope, I have him at 1 or 0. I know, actually, I have him at 1-3. So we're gonna have to set his buffs, which is fine, but it does make a difference. It does and it doesn't make a difference. With Onion Knight, he gets a free ability usage with how my kit is, how much built I have of his kit. We're gonna use his skill 2 to proc Blade Torrent. And we're going to use Blade Torrent. That's his kind of start-off kit, is he gets 2 free turns, or basically 2 turns initially. And he starts at almost full EX. And he basically, so it's basically so you could proc whichever stance, or whichever, like, stance, form, whatever you want to call it. Ninja or Sage, which affects how his EX is. Whether it's Meteor or what you just saw, Blade Torrent. So we're going to just HP attack with Hope. This can be a dangerous wave, depending on what you're using with you, or what you brought with you. So we're just gonna HP plus. We don't really want to burn out a lot of our skills this early, because this is another boss. This is like Dimensions End 4, or not 4, 5, right? 4, 5, 4. It's a boss rush. So it's better all around if I make sure that I don't burn out on skills. There is okay. Frame debuff. Defense and speed. Defense isn't gonna matter. Speed, not so much either. His whole point is to just keep the target lock up and take hits. And he does that very well. Alright. So we're going to do another HP attack. Same thing, Retributive Blast. And this is just going to be slow and steady. This gives me a good chance to kind of talk about Snow a little bit. It has kind of come to my attention through places like Reddit that he is being heavily compared to Zack. I did kind of discuss this in my previous showcase of him that I did with, which was my first commentary video, but how the audio turned out, I don't know if I was understood or if bits and pieces were even heard. So what I'm doing here is kind of reiterating some of the stuff I said, just in case. And that was one of the things. Snow and Zack are functionally different, in that Snow is first and foremost a tank with DPS potential. Zack, on the other hand, I feel is the exact opposite. He is a DPS unit with a tank kit, if that makes sense. And so for those reasons, as far as being a tank is concerned, I believe that Snow is the superior character to Zack as far as being a tank is concerned. Mainly because Zack is selfish. He protects himself. He draws in attacks and he absorbs them, which does protect the party, but when AoE attacks come out, then it does nothing for the party. And that's kind of that's a huge detriment to Zack, in my opinion, as far as him being a usable tank. That and all of Snow's attacks are melee damage attacks, as you can see here. Melee. And that is very important, because I've used Zack. I have Zack. I have 3-3 MLB. Like, he's great. And I will stand by this. I'm not saying that Snow is a better character than Zack. I'm saying that Snow is a better tank than Zack. I still think that Zack is among the best characters in the game. Like, bar none. He's easily among the best characters in the game. But as a tank, he leaves a lot to be desired, something that Snow doesn't. Snow is easily the better tank of the group. And bye-bye Snow turns. And in my tangent, left out the part where I talk about... Oh, I missed anyway. I left out the part where I need to make sure that target lock's on. That's on me. I think I've said this before, but I suck at this game. But anyway, Zack is a fantastic character. I use him. I have used him. He's in my Dimensions End 7 completion or perfect team, alongside, I want to say, Yuri and Paladin Cecil, I think. I'll go back and look. Might be interesting to kind of show what I used. Maybe people can input what they think with my clears. I'm sure I could have optimized them better. But other than that, yeah. I would actually not compare Snow. I don't think comparing Snow to Zack is fair. I think that Snow is more akin to a comparison between himself and, I want to say, probably Bosch. Him and Bosch are more closely aligned than him and Zack are, because he actually protects the party from from AoE stuff. Let's see, this could be... Oh, cool. I win! That was a little shaky, but went well. But yeah, Bosch protects the whole party. He actually absorbs HP. He severely decreases HP damage that the party receives, and he draws it into himself. So that's not something that any of the other characters do. And it's a lot more closer to what Snow does than what Zack does. The only real thing in common that both Zack and Snow have is that they have very not comparable. They have very respectable DPS for a tank unit. Like, if you look at the DPS output or natural DPS output of somebody like Bosch or Galoof, even outside of Galoof's EX, which is pretty hard, there is very little in the realm of like comparisons, and I feel like that's an unfair comparison even to say that Zack and Snow are comparable, because they both have that DPS potential that none other tanks have, because Snow still has that typical tank DPS. That's not what he's here for. But then you have characters like Zack, who are by design DPS tank units, and it separates I don't know. It's just a long tangent about how unfair the comparison is when they're not as similar as people would like to say they are. I do agree, though, when they say that if you have Zack, you really don't need Snow. I value tanks because there's not very many of them, and they are very useful for things like Dimensions End, that they're definitely worth picking up for clears. And taking that into account, I got Snow anyway. I would have gotten him regardless. I am a fairly devoted fan to the Final Fantasy 13 game, the original 13, the one that everybody hates. 13.2, I feel like has a better following than 13 does, but I love Final Fantasy 13. It was my introduction to the series. It wasn't the first one I beat, but it was the first Final Fantasy game I ever played. I was in high school. We had just gotten a PlayStation 3 system. My uncle, who lived in Indiana, purchased a PlayStation 3 for us, sent it over so that we can communicate with him and spend time with him even though he was so far away. And on Christmas, my family thought, because I was such a fan of JRPG-based games, which I really didn't know anything about at the time. I didn't know what a JRPG was. I just knew that I liked RPGs from Japan. I didn't even draw that connection. It was just RPG games. And they got me Final Fantasy. They thought I would like it, and turns out I did. And the rest is history. Not long after that, with that, and I liked Kingdom Hearts a lot, which is tied into Final Fantasy, but kind of continuing on with the story, I ended up purchasing Final Fantasies 3 and 4 for the Nintendo DS, and I ended up beating Final Fantasy 4, and that was the first Final Fantasy game I ever beat. And I never really looked back from that. It was a fantastic game. It was a wonderful experience, and it basically made me a fan for life. After that, I would have beaten Final Fantasy 13, but anyone who's ever played that game, I was a young high school student who got stuck on the Bartantalus fight. For those who do or do not know the struggle that comes along with that fight, particularly, it is a nasty fight. That first one, it is really the first insanely difficult boss in the game, and they just get harder from there. You go from Bartantalus through Grand Poles, which have some pretty shaky fights, and then you reach Tajin's Tower, and there's a boss named Dahaka, and he's really rough. And then you reach Bartantalus 2, and he's like nothing. And then it kind of just picks up from there until you hit the Proudclad, which is also pretty difficult if you don't know what you're doing. But anyway, I ended up dropping the game. I rage quit. I had too much difficulty with it initially, and I ended up going back to it, and I beat it at that time. I kind of cheesed my way through it. I surprisingly beat the final boss by using the poison debuff, which slowly just ate away at him, and I just stayed alive. I still can't believe that the strategy like that actually worked, but it did. And yeah, it ended up working out for me, and I ended up beating the game. I played the post-game, and I liked it. I'm sorry for people who don't like the game. I loved it. And even a bigger detriment to what some people would say when they say they hate it, and I say I like it. I like Snow. Snow was, to me, a great character. He kind of personified the Lassie story in that game. And so for those of you who don't know and never played that game, there were entities in the game called fal'Cie. And what they did was they basically chose champions of swords. where they chose people and made them into essentially champions, and they called them Lassie. And the main characters from that game, you see two of which are in my team right now, Hope and Snow. And you really see the fall of their characters and the changes of the changes that happen to their worldview. And it's really interesting because the biggest change you see is Mr. Hot-Blooded Hero Snow. And the reason why is because Snow was devoted to protecting the world that they lived in, Cocoon, which was branched off from a larger world called Grand Pulse that they were at war with. That's kind of the confusing part. They were at war, but they weren't really, because I don't know. That could be a whole discussion in and of itself. Just talking about that story and doing my best to try and make sense of it. But the bottom line is you see these characters who basically become enemies of the state because they were chosen as a champion by Fal'Cie not from where they're from. And as a result, they basically go on the run before they realize that they have to actually destroy the world they lived in. And you see this shift in specifically Snow's character, because he was dead set on protecting the world that they lived in, even though they were basically commissioned to destroy it. And it makes him really interesting, because there's stuff that happens with Hope. Hope I don't like from that game. Hope's character was very as far as I'm concerned. He's definitely he is definitely my least favorite character in the game, which sucked because he was also among the best characters in the game. I probably should have summoned here. This could be bad. Can I? I cannot. Let's do that. And then we'll do Retributive Blast to break him. And that should do it. There we go. We're safe. We're safe now. Alright. So we're gonna HP attack. And then we're gonna Last Resort. Which, now that I realize, is gonna do absolutely nothing. Actually, I'm impressed. That did a lot more than I expected. And I saved a Steel Guard use. Anyway, you see the shift in his character when he realizes that he has to turn on his ideals, and what he essentially stood for isn't really what matters anymore. He literally becomes an enemy of the world he fought for, and what he was basically he was a hero because he fought for the people. The game opens up during a sequence called The Purge, where basically the Lassie that they end up becoming is viewed by the general populace as kind of a plague. And so essentially what happened was you don't know who was exposed. So the game opens up after something else happened at a place called Bodum. And basically Lassie was found, and they decided to purge everybody who was there at that point because they didn't know who was kind of exposed to the Lassie pathogen or whatever. People were smart. Some certain people were smarter than that, but the general populace was not. And as a result, we get our main characters all having been purged, and Snow was essentially working with people he knew from Bodom to essentially protect the people who were purged, and basically leading a rebellion amongst the people who were there, with getting some of them to pick up arms. And that's kind of the character that he was. He was a protector. He just wanted to be that hero for people. And then you see the shift later on where he literally turns on it, and you kind of see we've seen in the Final Fantasy series, we have seen that shift before. Most notably, I would say, is the shift in Wakka's character from Final Fantasy X, when he realizes the Order of Yevon, which is basically the religion that they followed in that world, or in that game, is corrupted and actually acting off of their own self-interests against the interests of the people who actually presided in that world. And as a result, he ends up killing a magister, or essentially a magister is essentially like a pope, kind of deal. So he essentially kills one who actually breaks the laws of Yevon by refusing to die, which is a whole story in and of itself. And essentially he realizes that there's so much more to what's going on. And we don't really see anything like that in other characters. There's very few characters where you really see that. Another big one is not as oddly enough, it is impactful, but it's not as impactful as, say, when you've got characters like once again Snow, who you see a gradual, like, slow burn type of shift, and Wakka, who also has a slow burn shift where he kind of starts seeing things that make him question. Then you have characters like Cecil from Final Fantasy IV, where it's immediate, and there is that struggle, but it's not as impactful in the sense that it doesn't follow the entirety of the game. It is a huge plot point, but it's not necessarily the same. Alright, we have to do that. I almost just need to summon. I'm going to try not to. Let's do that. I should have summoned. I let myself get too distracted. That was pretty bad. Well, let's double check with the Ochu. No. Stand Kraken. We're good. And the Lunatic Celestial is actually weak to ice. So yeah, that was all on me. Let's give it another try. But that's essentially my point. Snow's a very interesting character, and that's why I like him. A lot of people don't. People find him obnoxious, annoying, so on and so forth. But he's not. I think his character development's actually one of the best in the game. Lightning has a really good point of character development, but she's the main character, so you're gonna kind of expect that. That's one of the beautiful things for that game. Every character in that game has some sort of significant character development. Lightning basically was a soldier for what's called the Guardian Corps, which basically purged people, which is what I talked about earlier. And then you have her become basically an enemy of the state. There's more to it than that. This is a very oversimplification of it, but she essentially becomes the enemy of the state because she becomes that l'Cie. And she really has to rethink the whole landscape of the world she lives in. And it hits her pretty hard. Then you have Snow, who I've already talked about. Basically the same thing. He was a protector. He was very devoted to the world he lived in until he became a l'Cie and kind of saw the change in the world. That his worldview, the shift in his worldview. Then you have Hope. Hope was a character. Basically, the story for Hope was a coming of age. That is the perfect way to simplify and to do that. That's a perfect simplification of Hope's story. It's a coming of age. He is a child. He's the youngest of the group who's basically forced to grow up in a situation where he shouldn't. And among other things, there's the death of his mother, who he held Snow to blame for because of the Freedom Fighters thing. Snow actually was recruiting people and she joined. And that ended up leading to her death when she basically jumped in the line of fire to save Snow's life, and doing so ended up dying herself. Once again, a little more detailed than that, but this is kind of a simplification. So you see Hope basically becoming an adult, coming into his own, realizing that he has a lot more to offer than his own insecurities would lead him to believe, since he's just a kid who's not really seen combat really before or dealt with it. And then you have Vanille. Vanille is a character who has significant character growth because she's essentially billed as this liar. She basically goes through most of the game pretending to have memory loss, and she actually knows what their focus is and is partially to blame for why they have that focus. And she kind of keeps it to herself and is actually part of the reason why a lot of the stuff in the game actually happened. Then you have Fang. Fang actually does have amnesia and is similarly at fault like Vanille is, not to the same extent, but she is similarly at fault, and her character growth doesn't really happen till the very end, where she kind of decides to be that said resolution, not to really spoil the end of the game. It's an old game, but I mean, there's going to be people that come out of the woodwork being like, hey, I haven't gotten to that part yet. And that's why I'm trying to keep things simple. I have a tendency to upset people for spoiling things. And then after that you have, the dad himself, Saz. Saz is an incredible character. He is fun in the game. He's interesting. He's relatively entertaining in the game. He's mild comic relief. And he is really, really powerful. Both in this game when he comes out later and in his own game. He is actually abused by speedrunners who play through Final Fantasy 13. Something I will probably never be good enough to do. But that's besides the point. Saz's character development actually comes when you kind of find out more about his backstory. The game doesn't really reveal much about him as a character until later. And it kind of ties directly into major plot points, so I don't really divulge into it. But it's relatively tragic. He definitely is at the receiving end of some very, very actually heartbreaking loss, if you think about it. But for those who know, they will know. For those who don't, I really don't want to spoil it. For those who are playing the game currently for the first time, if there even is people who are, and for people who plan on playing the game, for instance, because of this. This is a mashup Final Fantasy game with all main Final Fantasy characters included. And as a result, there's definitely going to be some runoff. I mean, me personally, I can't say how many times this game has made me go back and replay certain games. Specifically, 13. 13, 7, 9, and 12. So there's definitely still doing better. This could have gone better, but it could have gotten worse. So we'll see how these go. So we're gonna use a multi-hit here. Get a little bit more damage. We're gonna go into shell. We're gonna use protect of all. And then protect. Protect doesn't go into it, so I'm actually gonna use last resort instead to try and get the heal. There we go. And then we're gonna steel guard. And there we go. Blade Torrent. I wish I saved one instead of having to rebuild it up, but there we go. Keyword should be good now. Alright, so we're gonna go into Blizzard Enchant. And we're gonna multi-hit again. One of my issues, I think, is that I was a little too safe the first time, so I'm gonna try and be a little safer or not really safer. I want to try and be a little more aggressive, specifically in this wave. These guys seem to spam HP attacks a little bit more than I would prefer. As long as I don't see a heave come out with like self-battery, we're good. Okay, Sovereign Fist is coming out. I'm actually going to proc the C65, which is going to give me some regen. It's going to help me a little bit. I really want to make sure that Snow kind of gets back up to his fighting form. His HP is way too low. And did this one drop off? No, they both still have ice resist down. Let's do HP attack. And then here we got the last resort. I'm actually going to proc the protect up all again. I don't really think I'll need it outside of this fight, just to make sure that I get Snow back up once again to fighting form. Pay more attention now that essentially my tangent's over, to the amusement of those who watch. Especially since I know there's a lot of people who hate Final Fantasy XIII, and for me to have gone on a very long tangent of like why I think it's a good game and like what kind of speaks to me about it. Some people are just not gonna like that, and I get it. I do. I'd honestly be more freaked out if everybody did get it. But, you know, this is the internet, so take what you can get. Like, the same for the faint of heart. Yeah, we're relatively good here. I'm actually going to, among one of the things that I wanted to do for safety, because these guys get stacked. Like, look at that. Like, for this point in the game, that's pretty dangerous, especially for someone like me. I mean, if I had X-Death with me, which I don't, it would have been a little safer. But let's kind of take a look-see and try to do with what we can. Let's use a Blizzard combo. Alright, that's an issue in and of itself. I lost the Blizzard enchant. Okay. Retributive Blast. I know I said I was going to use the summon. I think I should be fine. Oh, I'm definitely going to be fine now. Alright, so for safety, we're going to proc the summon now. For the most part, even, the Dimensions End stages are genuinely the most difficult in the secondary. I do want to reset the buffs, but obviously it's not in my best interest to. From here, we're going to switch back to the ninja. Then Sovereign Fist. Because this actually might wrap it up. The last resort might come close. I was pretty far off. We're gonna HP attack. HP attack again. And I'm kind of trying to save skill uses at this point. Same deal, but I'm actually gonna follow through on that. And I'm going to try and save Onion Knight's EX. Okay. We're starting to reach a very terrifying position. We're going to HP attack this one. HP attack that one. We're going to show. We're going to protect. Same thing. I'm going to Retributive Blast because I do have the EX, but I mean, that's exactly why. There's literally nothing that's like making me need to use it, especially now, because I can burn into the EX now, deal heavy damage to this boss, and that's like that's almost a fourth of the health that's there. We're in a last resort. That should help with healing Snow. Then we're jumping a Blizzard combo. This is pretty much where I died last time, so I'm trying to be a little more careful. We're going to Frost Strike, get the health back. Only to realize that was not a smart idea. Let's Blizzard combo again. We're on the second to last wave, and that boss is nearly dead, so let's see what we can do. Sweet. That actually works out perfectly for me, because that means I can break them all, and I get target lock back up. Oh, I killed the other two, so that's actually probably best case scenario. I'm gonna have to. I don't want to, but that was too dangerous. Yeah, I'm glad that worked out. I was actually kind of scared for a second. The one turn left, like I said, I'm not very good at this game. I overlook a lot of things. Alright, from here we're going to go straight into multi-hit. Let's reset the buffs. This will also push off some debuffs for some characters. And then we're going to Steel Guard. Get the target locks up and refresh. Steel Guard. We'll hit him with the Last Resort. Why not? Get some heals on Snow. From here, we have the full Brave, so let's just dump it. From here, we'll HP plus, try to keep them even, you know. Celestial Ray, that did hefty damage. We'll get in the Blade Torrent. That's going to help Snow do more damage. The guy on the right here, the Lunatic Celestial, he's going to be the one you really need to watch out for. He's going to hit harder than the other one is. I probably can burn some more skills. I'm not really necessarily saving for anything else. This is the final wave. We've got... Okay, so we can throw in the Sovereign Fist. That's great. We're going to do an HP plus here, because I don't want to really use another multi-hit, but I don't want to switch either. I would have switched into Blizzard combo, but I really want to get off a Blade Torrent. We're going to Retributive Blast on the B slot. I can't think of the enemy's name for the life of me. I don't know. The Sand Kraken. The Sand Kraken, I just wanted to break so that I can get this turn here. Let's break the Celestial. Once again, the more dangerous of the two. And then I'm actually going to Frost Strike the Celestial as well. Get some HP back, because I know I'm going to take a paperweight, like, wet noodle HP attack. Alright, so we're resetting these. Not because I really need to, but it will be nice and helpful. Let's Blade Torrent. And we'll Last Resort. From here, we're going to Blizzard combo into the Sand Kraken. This should... Honestly, from here, it's probably going to be as close to easy mode. We'll use the C65, help regen in case I don't get a full heal back from whatever damage I'm going to take from the Celestial here. Ooh, I'm going to also Frost Strike again. Once again, he's relatively dangerous. He's the reason why I couldn't get the completion last time and why I'm using Snow this time. Let's take a look. I am well within the HP damage threshold, which is fantastic. And we're going to hit the Sand Kraken again. We need to kind of balance these out. Once again, you want to make sure that you kind of kill these, for those who don't know. I'm sure most of you do, but in Chaos stages, if there's two enemies and you kill one long before the other, you can't really focus one or the other. in a lot of situations. There are ways that you can get around that, like the precision strike on General Leo, stuff like that. But it's generally recommended that you try to kill them in close succession to one another. I'm gonna actually quick hit and switch back to ninja. And the purpose is to get some big damage off on Sandkraken, something numbers that I'm not going to get on Meteorite. And Sovereign Fist is charged. That's actually really good for me. I was going to use Steel Guard again, but that works better. And honestly, I'm more attentive than this. It's actually a lot harder than I thought to actually commentate and pay attention. From here, we're gonna hit off a Blizzard combo. We're gonna use Shell. Then we're gonna use Protect. And the purpose of that is to kind of battery, make sure I don't get a break taken. From here, we're gonna Frost Strike the Celestial. And it's pretty much game over from here. Last Resort is gonna proc. Then we're gonna hit Blizzard combo off on the Kraken. Massive Strike does absolutely nothing. Ooh, ended it off with the Snow Song, if anyone can hear it. I might have it really low, or it could be too loud and drowning out my voice again. I'm going to re-watch this before I upload it this time and actually double check and make sure. From here, Retributive Blast on the Sandkraken. And it'd be actually really sweet if I can end it with a Meteorite. I probably can. This should do it. There we go. First time completing this. I've never made it past stage 8 before. This is a pretty big, not big, but like it's a pretty nice win for me. I broke the score threshold. Got all 85 turns, which is actually slower than last time. But I was a lot safer. I definitely couldn't have done this without snow. They're locked in. I feel great now. It's like made my day. It's been a while. I was stuck on 6 for the longest time. So eventually I'm gonna have to do this one here. I already know I'm planning on using. I'm actually planning on attempting a Shadow solo. If not, I'm probably going to try and do some combination of a support with maybe Shadow and Fran. Because I do have Fran and I do want to use her. Plus we have 10 and we actually have 11 coming up too. So we're doing pretty good. I'm going to claim my nuggets here. I did claim the nuggets that were provided to me. There should have been 20 there, but I claimed the 10 for the clear. You get 10 for clearing, and you get 10 for completing. And I cleared it but didn't complete it, so I got the 10. The beauty of this, I don't have any of those. This is going to be my problem. But 2 ingots. significance of that is I will have enough to 3/3 another character. Now, Jack is coming out. His event is going to be tomorrow night, I believe, the 22nd, so 21st, and the evening of the 21st for me and my time zone. And we'll kind of see. I do really want him. I'm also a fan of the Type 0 characters. We pull up my party, roster here. We can go here. Move all, and then there we go. Yeah. We got Sync here, got her. Cater's coming, I'm excited. 8, Machina, Deuce, 7, King, Rem, Ace. I'm planning on picking up Jack. I really want to 3/3 him. He looks like he's a very fun unit, a very good DPS unit. I could use a few more of those now because of my leftover units that I do have access to with Dimension's End. If I go here, I can kind of show what I have. This is pretty much what I have left. 3/3 Edge, MLB, MLB 2/3 MLB, not really MLB, but then 2/3, but with built maxed out 15 and 35 on Rosa, 0/3 Ferris, Space EX, 3/3 X Death, 0/3 Terra, 3/3 Shadow, 3/3 Setzer, 3/3 Leo, 0/3 Cloud, 0/3 Tifa, Base EX, Eris. Is it Eris or Aerith? It changes. We got Barrett 3/3, Sephiroth 3/3, Squall 3/3, Ultimecia 3/3, Base EX Zidane, 0/3 Steiner, 1/3 Lulu, 0/3 Vaughn, 3/3 Fran, 0/3 Sarah, 0/3 Seven, 0/3 Deuce, 3/3 Machina, and then 0/3 with no 15 or 35 Ash. So I do have some options here, but having more is definitely preferred. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to rewatch it before I put this up to make sure that the audio is a little more favorable than it was before, and upload it then. Try to put out something more quality than I did before, especially since I'd like the tangent to be heard, for better or for worse. And yeah, as once again, as promised, I featured Snow again. I will I will most definitely use him again somewhere else. But you know what? That's it. Until next time, I guess. Bye.